This week on Pit Stop with Don and James, we prepare for the upcoming Las Vegas Grand Prix with Don debuting a new hat, we look at races of the past, and we make some bold predictions. Welcome to Pit Stop with Don and James. I'm James.
Don,
how you feeling, man? I know you've been a little under the weather there.
Yeah, under the weather. I spent some time in Miami, as we knew from last week's podcast, right? I was there, and when I got home, like the next day, I just started coming down with a cold. But nothing I can't beat. I got my Darjeeling tea here, which we've talked about before. My Darjeeling tea, that'll help. Hopefully my voice isn't too shot. I think I feel a little bit like it's a couple registers lower.
And got that Barry White going on.
That's right. I'm going Barry White on everybody today. Sorry if this is too much for you to handle. But yeah, I'm, I'll have, you might see my mute button come on a couple times so I can cough, during this. But other than that, I should be able to talk F1. I'm excited to get prepped for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, which is coming up this week.
Yeah, man. I think with the time change, maybe it's 11 o'clock or at midnight, somewhere in that ballpark for us. I definitely won't be watching it live this time around.
You're not going to be a night owl just for one day, James?
I don't have the ability, man. 9 o'clock rolls around and I'm out. That's it. There's no trying to do it anything past that.
I'll probably be able to stay up and watch it. I am a night owl and I like staying up. I probably punish myself too much by staying up and not going to bed when I should. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I might be texting you in the middle of the night saying, "Can you believe this? Another drain cover."
Oh man. Yeah, what a nightmare, huh? You would think with the history of tracks that have had that issue like Baku that they would have taken all the necessary precautions, but just somebody dropped the ball on that one. I think that was the first year they were there, right? That's when the drain covers popped up and I took out Signs
and a Ferrari,
right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What a bummer for Signs. Not the best he could have. Speaking of Ferrari, though, you are wearing a Ferrari hat, which is out of the norm for you.
It is, yeah, and it's specifically a Charles Leclerc hat. We'll get to it because I don't want to spoil too much, but I did buy this at the track when I was at Circuit of the Americas, and I bought this for my wife because she's a Charles Leclerc fan, a Ferrari fan, and I stole it for the purposes of this podcast. So we'll get to it. I didn't want to do a costume change in the middle. Otherwise, I would have put on a different hat and then thrown this on just for the bold prediction that's going to be tied to this Ferrari hat here. So,
okay. Yeah, that sounds fair. We are on an off week. I think I'll switch out my hats. Let me put on my Long Beach hat, actually. I think that'd be even better. Here we go. There you go. Gotta rock the IndyCar.
The hats have become a very important part of this podcast.
Yeah, more so than the substance.
Yep. People tuning in just for the thumbnails, I guess.
Yeah.
What is this guy wearing a red Ferrari hat for? Acura.
I know.
Grand Prix of Long Beach. Anyway.
Yeah, man. I don't want to be too off topic, but a little exciting news out of the IndyCar realm. Ryan Hunter-Reay is stepping back into McLaren for the Indy 500. So McLaren will be running 4 cars at the Indy 500. You would think that would increase their odds of winning, but I think their odds are staying just about the same.
Oh, yeah. So he's just going to run the 500. That's it.
I think he is just going to run the 500. If I've read the news correctly, I have this horrible habit of skimming and then thinking I know what was said. So we'll see how that actually plays out. But I think it is just for the Indy 500. He'll be bringing in his expertise.
I think that's a thing that almost all Americans do nowadays. We think we're more well informed with the access right at our fingertips, but people love to read headlines and then not fully follow through with the article. Plus, they've started writing articles in such a way. I was just noticing this, and this is across the board. This isn't just auto sports or politics or anything. They give you a bait line in the headline, and then it used to be that, like in a news article, they'd give you the meat of it in the first 2 paragraphs, like that was it. But now they'll put it, near the end, like to try to get you like a surprise ending. And I'm like, hey, I just wanted to know what you said in the headline.
Exactly.
Make me read all this.
I totally understand. I totally understand it, man. Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
Yeah. So kudos to Ryan Hunter-Reay. I was there when he started his season. So it's nice to see him coming back, Mr. Captain America himself. We'll see if he can make anything of it. I've always liked Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's anytime I've gone to Long Beach and gotten a autograph or a picture with him, was always more than nice. So all around a good guy. I've never been shirked by him. There's been a handful of drivers that have kind of pushed me away once or twice. And I won't mention names, but they know who they are.
I was going to dig for those names.
Off camera.
Well, that's cool, man. I'm glad. I don't know much about him myself, but certainly I've seen his name pop up, as I sort of just surface level touch my IndyCar sports. I don't follow it as closely as you or Patrick, who's subbed in on this, or probably your dad who has subbed in on this. But yeah, I've certainly seen the name.
Yeah, man. Well, maybe we'll shift into something a little more relevant that you might know about. Las Vegas Grand Prix is coming up. One of the more interesting tracks on the grid. I gotta say, from only watching it on TV, it looks fantastic at night. Like the way it's lit up. I mean, Vegas has always looked good at night. You always see those night shots in movies or on TV shows.
Yeah.
It is just a spectacular place to see from the sky. And adding Formula One, no different. It looks really good. The racing always kind of mixed a little bit. I was rewatching the race last year, and Las Vegas last year was a significant race for Max Verstappen. All he had to do was beat Lando Norris, and he secured his title, which he did. He beat him by 1 position. He finished just ahead of him, secured his 4th straight F1 victory. So kudos to Max Verstappen. But anything you're looking forward to coming up to this Vegas Grand Prix?
So what I'm looking forward to, I always enjoy the spectacle of it. I don't think I think it's kind of mixed whether the drivers like the spectacle of it. I think some of them, including Max, have sort of talked bad about the spectacle. I think that's what Vegas does probably better than anybody, right? Is they put on a show. That's the name of the game in that town. And F1 is a huge show, so it shouldn't be weird for the drivers to participate in the making a spectacle of what they do. I like the night race. I think night races are kind of interesting. Having said that, unlike Singapore, which is a night race, this night race takes place during the time of year when it actually is kind of chilly in Vegas. So
freezing.
It'll kind of affect the performance of the tires. They won't be as easy to warm up. The grid itself, or the circuit itself, is kind of hard for me to judge whether it's really a great circuit or not. I think now we've done 2 races there. I think this is the 3rd year, right? That they've done a race there, and
maybe,
yeah, I think that's it. And then, so like I don't know that everybody's quite figured out the points that are best for overtaking. But there was some passes, because that was the thing I was worried about when they opened up this track a couple of years ago. I was like, okay, we're not going to have much. We may not have much overtaking, but I think that there actually has been a little bit of some overtakes. There's been some drama with the, as we joked about at the start, with the manhole cover causing a delay. Yeah. Of course, when that happened, this is another thing I heard about, is that there was such a delay on the circuit, and people are there in the middle of the night to watch this race. They had some people cleared out, and then they wouldn't let them back into the venue to watch it, which was bogus. You pay an arm and a leg for a Vegas ticket. They are not cheap. You know, the
I think it
tickets.
was because the workers had to go home, right? That was the issue.
Yeah,
Like
that might be.
they
That
were only
sounds
slotted to
familiar.
stay till X amount of time, and
Yeah, I would
that
have been
was it.
furious if personally. I mean, these
Yeah,
things come through one time a year, and then they're very expensive. Let the fans enjoy as much time there as they can possibly enjoy. That's my philosophy. Now, I'm sure there's some logistics about it that's difficult, but anyway, so there was that. I don't know that I've heard necessarily about that. I was talking to a friend that I bumped into the other day, and he's been to the race I think both years, and he said that he was a little surprised last year, which would have been the second year that they were there, that there wasn't it wasn't packed. It was a little bit sparsely attended, and he said something like 60 to 70% attended. So that's kind of surprising. I don't know if that doesn't bode well for the circuit, but or for this particular race, but yeah. So anyway, I think your initial question, I've now wandered way off topic,
yeah.
but it is. I love the straight that goes down that big part of the Vegas Strip.
Strip.
And
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. When I was there around this time last year to see a concert, and they were setting up for the race, and it was kind of cool to see all the fencing that goes up that they've placed around, the lighting and all that kind of stuff that they've placed up to make that race happen. And so, I mean, I like this time of year, and I actually enjoy Vegas. A lot of people, I think it's kind of like you're hit or miss on Las Vegas itself. You know, if you like gambling, of course it's fun. If you don't like gambling, a lot of people think it's just this dirty, massive people, and it's kind of sleazy or something. I don't know, but I enjoy going there. Maybe I'm a low life. I don't know.
Well, both things can be true.
Yeah.
Having been in Vegas a number of times myself, I would go to Vegas. I like to relax. Typically, when we go, we'll take in a show, do the touristy thing, see a Cirque du Soleil show. But honestly, it's just a lot of lounging by the pool first thing in the morning, having lunch, taking an afternoon nap, seeing a show at night, and then doing it all over again the next day. So,
Yeah.
It is definitely dirty despite the good times that I have there. So
Yeah.
both things are true, I think, about Vegas. Vegas is a lot of things, and it's pretty true about it all. So
Yeah, definitely cool entertainment and
oh yeah,
good accommodations there. And I don't think it's what it used to be back in the old days when it was cheap hotels, cheap buffets, and all that kind of stuff. It can be a little pricey now. You can't just get away with banking on the fact that they're gonna, or them banking on the fact that you're gonna gamble, and then
oh yeah,
they make up for it in that way. So you can spend a little bit, but there's so many different places you can stay. There's so many different things you can do. There's comedy shows, there's magic shows, there's acrobatics and all of that. And I think that's, again, to go back to it, that's one of the cool things about the Vegas Grand Prix, is that they kind of incorporate all that stuff into the weekend, and then they probably draw a huge international crowd and make a bunch of money that weekend. But yeah,
yeah.
I am looking forward to it. It's the circuit looks to me like a map of a butcher's thing for a pig,
Yeah.
a diagram. They think they call it the flying pig or something like that.
Yeah.
and there's some interesting parts of the circuit, but yeah, I am looking forward to. Another thing I'm really looking forward to try to go back and answer your original question, is to see what happens with McLaren. I think they're knocking on the door of shutting down Max at a charge for a fifth consecutive world championship on the driver's side. And if they do enough, if McLaren does enough, it's going to really put it out of reach for Max. But it's nothing's going to be easy. McLaren didn't exactly do awesome last year at this circuit.
Yeah, sort of a mixed bag for him. I mean, if we want to talk about who was a standout, it was obviously George Russell in the Mercedes. He qualified on pole. Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari was right there. I think he was only like a 10th or something off in the qualifying pace. And a surprise visit from Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. It seems like last year he had kind of a few standout races, and the Alpine just hasn't been up to snuff this year. So I don't know. Obviously, Pierre Gasly, he's been in the game a while. I think if he had a decent car, he would be doing a lot better. But yeah, started in the top three, not bad. And you're right. I think McLaren Lando Norris he started sixth. Same thing with Piastri, started in eighth. I do know that Piastri got a 5 second penalty for, I think he jump started or did a false start on the grid. So that kind of ruined his day a little bit. Was not a good weekend for Williams, sadly. Colapinto was running with them. He had to start from the pit lane because they modified it under Parc Ferme. And then during the race, Alex Albon had a DNF. So not the best weekend for him. But that being said, this upcoming weekend, I'm really hoping good things from Williams. They've been kind of shaky a little bit the past couple races, but I think hopefully they've got it sorted out. Williams seem to really do well when there's a long straight at high speed, so hopefully that'll do well for them this time going down the strip.
Yeah, it has been a little disappointing to watch what's happened to Williams over the last little bit. They started off or earlier in the season they had a stretch of some pretty good success, and it just seems like they've hit a patch of bad luck ever since Sainz took that podium, right?
Yeah,
they hit a peak there, and then it's just been kind of lackluster ever since. I would love to see them make a strong charge to the end here in these last three races. So we'll see. I don't know. It's been hard to bet on them recently. I think I made a bold prediction after the Sainz podium, and I was way off. Like they didn't
way
come
off
through. But yeah, I think so. I think you said this already, but last year McLaren finished the race P6 and P7 behind Max Verstappen in P5. So
yeah,
they just couldn't find the pace. I don't know if it was the cooler temperatures or the newness of the circuit or what, but they weren't finding it. And then Max, a P5 for him isn't the best either, but he did just enough that day to clinch it. They were the McLarens were right ahead of Nico Hulkenberg, who finished in P8 last year in a Haas. So pretty decent finish for Nico last year. But yeah, it was a Mercedes track last time. It was a 1-2 for Mercedes. George took the win. Lewis took P2. This was another example to me of where I sort of feel like it was a mistake for Lewis Hamilton to go from Mercedes to Ferrari. He was getting good results still, even though he wasn't winning and competing for the drivers' championship. It was like, I feel like he left just a little too soon. And along those lines, I'm starting to see headlines, and I pull in a James here and not reading the whole article, but I'm seeing headlines about some talks that Toto Wolff is in to sell his stake in Mercedes. Did you see any of that?
No, I haven't seen any of that. I think that would be obviously sad, but that would be a really huge loss for the sport. You know, he came in and he was there when Schumacher, was finishing up his career at Mercedes. They weren't able to really make anything of it while he was there, sadly. But he's built that team up from the ground up, and I don't know what he would go do afterwards. Maybe take it to another team. I can't really picture him moving to another team, quite honestly, because he's just been with Mercedes for so long, and that's kind of been his baby. So if you're gonna have to send me those links, I'm gonna have to read those articles.
Yeah, and I've seen a couple, and one made it sound like he's selling completely, but the other one made it sound like he was selling a portion of his stake. So we got to do some research and figure this out. And I don't know if the other thing that it didn't say necessarily was, is he talking about Mercedes Racing, or is he talking about holdings that he has in the Mercedes-Benz company altogether? I'm not really sure, but what immediately came to my mind is I felt like Toto and Lewis Hamilton had a special bond and relationship, and sort of were doing this together, and it worked really well. Lewis obviously kept bringing home the bacon, and Toto was doing whatever it was that he does. He seems like a good manager. He seems also extremely passionate. At his level of wealth, he's a billionaire.
Oh yeah.
At his level of wealth, might be hard to have that passion that he has, but he definitely has it. And I don't know, like, think of another billionaire. Like, I don't see this from Lawrence Stroll. It doesn't seem. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Lawrence Stroll doesn't think he could come in and run a team the way Toto does, but I don't know. I don't see the passion from him like I see from Toto Wolff. So I really like him. I even, he's married to Susie, who's a racing driver as well,
Yeah.
and so it seems like he just loves autosport, and I got a lot of respect for Toto Wolff. And what a great name, and what a great head of hair. I always am jealous of that head of hair that he's got. Yeah, and then the Austrian accent, he sounds a little bit like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something. He's a great personality, and I'm hoping what I'm seeing is just rumor mill stuff, and it never amounts to anything, or at least if it amounts to him selling stuff, it doesn't amount to him leaving the sport, because I like him.
Yeah, I think he's going to go down as one of the best team managers that there's been within the sport. You think of guys obviously like Christian Horner. He was a really good one. Eddie Jordan, he was obviously a huge figurehead within it. I think Toto Wolff is going to be added to that list for sure. I don't want to continue to speculate on what it may or may not mean, but I really would hate to see him leave the sport if and when that ever does happen. And hopefully it won't be a terrible exit like Christian Horner. It'll be more on his terms,
right?
When the time happens. But obviously, very excited for Vegas. We keep talking about how close everybody is in the standings. You kind of have this title fight going on at the front. You have people fighting to hang on to the top 10 position. I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen, because there are only 3 races left, right? There's Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi, moving out to the Middle East. Do you think that Verstappen will? I honestly don't think Verstappen's going to take P1 in the championship. I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think it's there. I think McLaren are just too dominant on their own as a team. But I think there might be a push for P2. I think he might actually be able to do it.
That Max could take P2 in the Drivers' Championship?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way things are going right now, Oscar Piastri is losing momentum, and Max is still riding high pretty well. Last week wasn't a great result for Max, or no, it was. That was his drive back from from pit lane to P2.
From pit lane.
Yeah, but yeah, I think Oscar's in some trouble, and it's a little unfortunate. It would be a little bit of a bummer to see him drop all the way down to P3 in the championship after leading for so many months. I actually just listened to a good episode of Beyond the Grid, which is a official F1 podcast that Tom Clarkson does. He does interviews with big names in the sport. He'll talk to team principals, he'll talk to drivers, he'll talk to engineers, and all these different kinds of people. So I highly recommend it to anybody who's a fan of F1. And he interviewed Oscar Piastri, and it was the interview took place very recently. Like it was probably right before or after this last race that we just had. I think it was right before the Brazil race, and Oscar had been dropping in form, and he didn't sound rattled at all. Oscar didn't. He sounded completely fine. I know we kind of speculated about the relationship between Oscar and Lando, and according to the interview that I heard, Oscar certainly doesn't feel like their relationship has been tarnished at all. He in fact, Tom asked him a specific question about that, and he was like, no, I think it's actually a little bit better of a relationship than it used to be. And he said that there are sometimes some short-term, I'm trying to remember the phrase he used, but it was like short-lived or short-term feelings that that they'll feel after a race, but they always mend it, and it's fine afterwards after people have a chance to cool down. So, I don't know, maybe they are getting along better than we would have thought, given some of the controversies that have happened at McLaren this year. And hopefully it doesn't set them back at all and they keep going. I do think Oscar is driving a little too desperately, and he needs to get back to his calm, cool, smooth self so that Max doesn't sneak up and either win the championship or take P2. And so that's what I'm looking for Oscar. Like, keep it cool. Don't try to overdrive, and put in solid points, somewhere in that top 4, keep Max at bay.
The thing is there's pretty good intervals, right, between where everybody's sitting, because there's only in exactly 25 points between Max and Piastri for the second place, but then there's 24 points between Piastri and Norris. So I mean, you want to talk about some theoreticals. Both McLarens have horrible weekends the next 3 weekends, and Max sweeps them. He could take the championship. Very unlikely. Don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But to go to your point between Oscar and Norris, I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. I think he was just saying. I think he had some media training to say that. From what I've seen, it doesn't look like there's that much of a friendship there anymore. But
yeah.
Who am I to say? I'm not on the inside. I don't know. I don't see these guys on a regular basis. So,
yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, there in anything, there's always a PR face, and there's what happens behind the scenes, and so we don't know. And you could be right, and they could be at each other's throats a little bit. I could kind of buy it. I don't feel like Oscar is one to just go out there and bald-faced lie. But I mean, who knows? I don't feel like I know anything about what happens with athletes at all. I feel like they're, and I frankly, I kind of don't care. I'm there to see greatness in the sport, and the only reason it seems like it matters in this instance is because there's this unique thing that happens in Formula One where they are teammates and competitors against each other at the same time. This doesn't really happen in basketball. This doesn't happen in football. This doesn't happen in baseball or cricket or whatever, where you're all on a team trying to accomplish a single goal. In this sport, the team has a goal, and then the individuals also have goals. It's a very interesting dynamic, and they're going at each other right now, but they really cannot afford to do something stupid and run into each other again. If it's going to be a DNF for either or both of them, it better be because of some sort of mechanical failure, and not, or because Lance Stroll ran into both of them, but not because they hit each other, or really that either one of them does something ridiculous and ruins their own race. Like they can't be going off track. They can't run into somebody. They got to be the victim of of somebody else hitting them if it's going to be a DNF. That's the way I see it. And maybe if I was running the team, that's what I'd say to them. Like, guys, we got to bring home points, or Max is going to come do the impossible here. So yeah, and those DNFs will be the one that kills them, right? Because it'll be, if Max also goes to the finish line and gets points, there'll be unanswered points. So we can't see that if you're McLaren. Now, if you're Max, it would be pretty awesome, right? To see Max come back. Like, I mean, my heart would be broken, but I would have no choice but to admire what Max did.
Yeah, both McLarens going out, highly improbable. One going out, we've seen that happen. So I don't know, man. It's going to be close. I still think there's going to be a McLaren at the top step at the end of the year.
Yeah.
If Lando wins the next 2 races, the next 2 races, I think he will have secured the championship.
So, I haven't done the math, but that sounds right.
I'm trying to math it out in my head right now. I work with numbers during the week. I'm not going to do it on the weekend. Maybe just to shift a little bit, did you see that Audi had kind of a press release about their 2026 livery?
Well, yeah, I sent something to our F1 chat about it, the livery. I didn't see the press release necessarily. I just saw some pictures
Oh
with
yeah.
the black, red, and gray, and it was right up my alley, man. I'm gonna have to cheer for Audi, not just because I like Audi cars, but I love that livery.
Yeah, for those that don't know, you are a huge fan of Audis. You really dig them. But yeah, man, I gotta say it looks pretty dang sharp. So I'm hoping that the car will be as good as the livery looks.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be. I don't know. I'm not sure what to expect, but there's a lot of fun stuff to look forward to next year, right? Audi will be one of those things, and of course, Cadillac joining the grid is going to be huge. So, very, very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, and you know what? Sergio Perez did a test run in Italy this week with I think it was a 23 Ferrari.
Yeah,
Is what he was running.
all
I
black.
saw somewhere, yeah, all black. Obviously, he can't run the Ferrari colors because he's not a Ferrari driver.
Yeah,
Um, I saw somewhere, if I'm remembering it correctly, that he was running like a top 5 time, like a P3 time, P2 time is what he was running in the car. So obviously he hasn't lost it. I'm sure he's been doing tons of training, trying to get back in race ready condition after being off for a year. Obviously that time is indicative of what a Ferrari could do at that time, and not a representation of what Cadillac is going to accomplish this upcoming year. But for me, it's good to see Perez back into a car and see that he has the ability to be competitive just as a driver. So I'm hoping that Cadillac will hook him up with a decent car. Obviously, they're not running Cadillac engines this upcoming year, so it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works, and if and when they do come up with a Cadillac engine, what that shift will be.
yeah. I have not been able to predict anything. I don't know what they'll even look like.
Yeah.
I I don't know enough, I guess. Cadillac's not unknown to autosport, so we like to think that they'll recruit top talent and design a good car, but I'm not going to go out on that limb yet till I see them, and that'll make it all the more exciting for testing this year, right? When we get to the February testing, I will definitely be glued to that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Cadillac isn't unknown to the racing world, like you said. Same thing with Audi. Audi's not unknown to the racing world. I think Ferrari is kind of the last great conquest for these two manufacturers. So I'm really hoping big things. They obviously have the team to do it. They've won championships in other respective fields of racing, and F1 is just that last one. I think that'll be like the last feather in their cap. Just maybe bust a Ford, win, and then exit. And that'll be it.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Unless it was, I was sad to see him go, and then it wouldn't be cool. But yeah, getting that accomplishment, who knows? I think it will take time. I mean, it's got to take time. It would be really shocking if they jumped in there and won right away. But I guess that you never know in this sport, and money goes a long way, and they got a lot of money, so.
Yeah. Well, testing's only in 3 months, 4 months. So yeah. I guess we'll find out pretty soon.
I know. Yeah. Pretty cool.
But yeah, man, you got any bold predictions you want to make for the upcoming Las Vegas Grand Prix?
You bet. So this brings us back to the hat.
Okay.
All right. You ready for this one? Leclerc. He wins it.
I think so, huh?
That's what this hat's all about. Leclerc's going to win it. It's a bold prediction. And if it's not Leclerc and somehow it's Hamilton, that'll be just as good, if not better. But I say that here's my rationale. Okay, the Mercedes were 1 and 2 last year at this track, and Lewis was in one of those Mercedes. The Ferraris were P3 and P4. So I think that they have the car for this track, and so I think that they're going to be competing with the Mercedes again this year. I could totally see after the good runs that Mercedes have had this year, especially recently with George and Kimi. I think we've got a chance for Mercedes and Ferrari to be battling for the top 3 spots. So that's my bold prediction, is Charles wins the whole thing. I think we're going to see, and this is the other kind of related, the related bold prediction, we're going to see 3 different constructors represented on the podium. Those are my 2 bold predictions that I came prepared with.
Okay. I like to liken this track to Saudi Arabia track. It's a street circuit, basically. Close walls, not a lot of runoff, some long straights, few tight turns. I think, just kind of going off that one, I do like Leclerc's odds, but I don't think I'm going to add him to my bold predictions. I do have George. I think George, with his run last year and how good he's been doing this year, I think he's going to be in the top 5, if not the top 3. And I'm going to put both Williams back into the top 10.
2 Williams scoring points. Okay.
Yeah. And it's probably just because they really should have scored points in Brazil and they neglected to do so. So I'm really hoping that they'll both be able to grab points this upcoming weekend.
It's a hopeful one, I can tell from you. A hopeful bold prediction. I can't kind of much like I kind of like have like a do not contact list, and I'm kind of steering clear of making Williams bold predictions anymore. It's kind of like Yuki, Alonso, and Williams are all on my list. It's been too hard to make predictions about these guys. But yeah, those are good. I definitely think George has what it takes to win this race. I mean, he obviously did it before, and he's been driving, I think, very well. And so, if this track continues to suit the Mercedes, which it seems like it has, then yeah, I'm not so sure I agree with the comparison to Jeddah. There are a couple pretty long straights on this track, but the Jeddah course has a lot of back and forth, left, right.
It's a lot more twisty, for sure.
So I had never thought of that comparison myself, but maybe you're not far off. Maybe I just need to look at it a little differently. But yeah, I was really trying to figure out what kind of a prediction to make about Max, and I elected to not throw one out there. But what do you think his odds are at this circuit?
Well, he won the inaugural, right? He won 2023. 2024 didn't do so hot. I mean, he finished P5. That's not bad. I think there was an issue with his wing last year, if I remember correctly. They were also running that rear wing with like the double cutouts on it. It was sort of an odd choice for him. That being said, he's done pretty well. He obviously had a very good running outside in Brazil. I think his odds are good. I think he will be top 5. I don't know if he'll be on the podium, though. I mean, it is pretty aggressive towards the front of the field. Going back down the field, I got to tell you, I'm really liking what Nico Hülkenberg's been doing the past couple races. I think his odds are pretty dang good to be back in the top 10 again.
Yeah, I certainly think that is within possibility. Any given weekend, it's I feel like it's become not surprising at all to see a Sauber in the top 10, either one of them, and so yeah, and I'm always excited when I do see them scoring points. So having said that, if we allow those Haas cars and the Saubers to get up in that top 10, it makes it a little harder for the Williams to get their top 10 too.
Yeah, it definitely does.
We can't be too hopeful for those guys.
Yeah, everybody that's kind of floating around between like P8 and P15, like it's all super competitive. Those guys are constantly shifting within that range, with a few outliers. So, but I mean, he had a really good running in the USGP where he finished 8th. Brazil, he finished 9th. Obviously, bad luck in Mexico with his DNF. I like what he's been doing, though.
Yeah.
He had a really good string of it, right? Like Spain, Canada, Austria, obviously Great Britain. He's had a pretty good run. So I'm liking what he's putting up. I think him being in the top 10 is not outside of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, let's root for that. I'd be happy to put my Nico Hulkenberg hat on next week to recap that. You brought up an interesting point, and it just made me think. This year, McLaren ran away with the Constructors' Championship, obviously.
Oh yeah,
but and this is somewhat of the other thing that I think is very, very fun about Formula One. If you just watch to see who wins the races, if you just watch to see who wins the drivers and constructors championships, I mean, you're seeing just this little sliver of what happens in these races. The battles that have happened beyond McLaren taking the constructors so early in the season have been really good to watch. I mean, there's so much else going on this year, and we've got a drivers championship battle coming down to the wire, and then all those other places, like you said, there's people moving around all within there, and they're very good, interesting accomplishments for teams like Williams, who, even if they don't get into the points, have made a huge jump from last year to this year in their performance, and Sauber, huge jump. The team that's been going backwards the most is Alpine, who have really just plummeted, and that's really a shame. It's a shame that they've done this, because they were really from the Renault days were a top contender at times. So yeah, kind of sad to watch that. Haas hasn't really dug out of a hole, but we've seen some brilliant performances by Ollie Behrman mostly this year, and so yeah, there's been a lot going on, and I think that is a good thing for this sport. I don't know how to get other people to think of it that way, but that's how I think about it. You can lock up a drivers or a constructors championship early, but it seems like a lot of times there's still a lot of drama going on in the middle of the pack somewhere. So yeah, I'll be watching for those battles as well. And yeah, I think that even with just 3 races to go, there's still a lot of drama to watch for. You brought up Gasly, and I just talked about Alpine. This is a thing we didn't even talk about this beforehand or anything, but I got to thinking, what Pierre Gasly to me is this guy who's had these flashes of brilliance. And I'm sure there are other guys like this on the grid who just need to be in a top car. So 2 questions to you. Okay. Will we see Gasly in a top performing car before the end of his career? And if we see him in a top performing car, is he capable of winning races and competing for the championship? And bear in mind that he did drive for Red Bull for a short time, but at that time they didn't really have a top car. They didn't have it was just before they got the dominant Max Verstappen 4 titles in a row car, right? So anyway, those were the 2 questions I had for you. Will we see him in a top car, and is he capable in that top car of winning races and competing for the championship?
Man, that's a tough one, because I think Gasly came in halfway through 2017 with which was then Toro Rosso, which is now Racing Bulls. I think he replaced Danny Kvyat mid-season. I forget which race, but 2019 he was at Red Bull.
Mm-hmm.
And for the 2019 season, that was obviously that's still under the Mercedes reign, right? But it was sort of the same situation that Max Verstappen has been in, because Max was his teammate. Max finished 3rd in the championship that year. So they did, albeit 200 points down. So they had a competitive car, but Pierre Gasly just couldn't really make it stick. And I think he was only in there for a handful of races. I think he was promoted and then promptly demoted. So he never really got to have his a proper go at it. I'll tell you what, Renault well, Alpine, they have that history. They're basically Renault, and Renault has such a history. I think if Renault really put the time and energy into making a proper engine, and Alpine, you know, really pushing it, I think that car has the ability to be really competitive. I do. Renault is, I think they're the largest engine manufacturer in the world, is what they are. They make engines for everything, and they really just need to just focus on it. So to answer your question, yes, if he had the car, I think he could. He has had those moments of brilliance, and I think if he had a very competitive car, and it just all kind of came together, I think he would do very well.
Yeah, I'd like to think he could, and I'd like to see it happen. And this is one of the things that I think is a shame about Formula One, is that typically from year to year, there's one or two, maybe three dominant cars. And I think that there's probably 6 to 8 drivers out there who would do really well with a dominant car, but we don't always see them. And that's a thing that's hard to marry up, right? And I think this is what lends to some of the feeder series being like, they want one spec car that's just everybody, it's all the same. I mean, there's only minor tweaks that you can do to it, but it's basically you're racing all the same car, so you can see the true talent of the driver. And I wish there was some better way to better represent that, because I think that there are some guys who are out there, and Nico Hulkenberg is another guy, right? Like he's been around all this time. Obviously, the guy's talented. He's had all these other successes, but has found the podium only one time in 240 plus races. And so it would be awesome to see, well, what would Nico Hulkenberg do in a top of the line McLaren, or a Red Bull or Mercedes, like that, or a Ferrari, so like I don't know. That's a piece that I wish we could somehow see, even if it was in some other like kind of kitschy way of like, let's put all the drivers in the same car at the end of the race and do like an all-star game or something like that, and see what they, something that doesn't matter particularly, but let's see what they all do if they all have the top car, or I don't know, something like that. Or you do a race where you just shuffle the deck and you just say, okay, there's 20 different cars, there's 20 different drivers, let's see who, like, randomly who ends up in what car, and then put them out there. I think that would be like a very interesting thing to watch. I mean, there's probably lots of money at stake, so maybe they wouldn't do that, but
yeah
but yeah, I don't know.
yeah that is always kind of the what if, right? And that's kind of the interesting thing about motorsport in general, is that if you have like a really talented driver, which everybody, running at the top levels, whether it's Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, IMSA, you have these top tier drivers, but if they just don't mesh with the car, you're going to lose time. Although Pierre Gasly, he might be a really good driver, if he's not meshing with the car and just can't get his driving style to match what the car can do, you're going to lose time, and you're just not going to be running it at the optimum. So if you kind of have to have that merriment of both of them, right? The car has to suit the driver, or the driver has to suit the car, and going both ways around it. But I really would like to see, if everybody was an equal machinery, what it would do.
Yeah, it'd be fun. Then you do like a secret Santa, where each driver gets to pick another driver to drive their car. And then around
maybe they should go back to the aggregate. There was a time in Formula One where they did aggregate qualifying. So it was the best time over 3 laps. So whatever your aggregate time was over those is what your qualifying time would be. So maybe we should go back to that. Although they did discontinue it because rain kind of ruined it a little bit. So some people qualified in the dry, both like all their times in the dry, but some got half dry, half wet, and it like really screwed up the order.
Right.
So obviously that creates chaos. Maybe they should just go back to that. I like the unpredictability of it.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what they do in IndyCar, right? Qualifying, where they take average speed or something like that over a few laps. Isn't there something like that in IndyCar, at least at Indianapolis 500?
Yeah, the Indy 500 is a little different to how they do the qualifying. but everywhere else, it's just time.
Yeah, I think I've watched a little bit of it where they're out there doing a few laps, and I don't know if it's aggregate time or an average of some kind, but I guess in some ways they're the same thing. but yeah, it would be interesting to shake things up a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, that was just that thought popped into my mind about Pierre Gasly, and it's not just him. There's other drivers who I'd like to see, who I feel like, have this talent, and would be interesting to see how they do if they got a chance in a better machine. But yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, fair enough, man. Well, kudos. This has been. I hope you feel better. You sound pretty good, but looking forward to Las Vegas, man. It's gonna be a good one for sure.
Viva Las Vegas.
Viva Las Vegas, and I'm gonna say adios.
Adios. See you, James.